I was working out with the recording, how to process it. So let's start for the day, folks, and certain things to tell you first that these classes that we are having, I think we've had the first 21 days today, but I'll still wait for another 6 7 days. I want students who had not experienced G3 before to experience this. If you're not part of the economics program, so maybe a review call is what I will do with most of you who have joined in. And then the other thing that I'm planning to do is maybe on a Saturday, on alternate Saturdays, have a session with you which will be offline come online, with respect to other things that I had in mind. For example, from the inputs that I've had from most of you is that you like the introduction of technology into your entire GS prep. So I had one session recently where I had talked about how to integrate tech with respect to your entire GS prep. So we are going to talk about that even more. Now, how to make notes, how to automate notes, what are the pitfalls of using GPTs, and how to overcome those pitfalls. So all of that discussion, and make your prep a very tech oriented prep, is what I have in mind. So linking your OneNotes, for example. Let me give you a small example. So if you are preparing a topic of internal security, we are going to talk about internal security today. So if you're preparing a topic for internal security, you should have a separate notebook within your OneNote. And how your notes should be compiled is, suppose you're reading something, you're reading an article and you've created a summary on GPT. It should automatically link to your notebook, where it should know where your notebook is, and it should export your notes to your notebook, so that by the end of the week you're able to see this is what I've been able to do. So that note making that you had in mind कि मुझे notes बनाने हैं हर टॉपिक के, वो कैसे बनाओगे? दैट इज़ अ टिपिकल क्वेश्चन दैट आई कीप गेटिंग. शुड आई मेक नोट्स, शुड आई मेक नोट्स, शुड आई मेक नोट्स? You can make your own notes which will be better than that of any of these institutes that you see, and they'll be much more efficient. So, and they will be personalized because you know them, you read through it. And then maybe if you want, you can watch any of these vision and stuff, whatever you like. But my idea is to make you self-reliant when it comes to current affairs and see the application of each of these topics as well. So with this, let's start our session. Let's meditate for say 2 minutes, because we are running short on time because of a number of things. And then we can go for our journaling as well as other things. So I'll just briefly stop my video, and then I'll just put a timer, and then we will start another 2 3 minutes after meditation. We'll do journaling and then current affairs. So let me now, first thing, temporary house in Germany, special horse feed, how Olympics help paved way to road to Paris. So read about who all is representing India in Paris. Then coming down, president in Puri, at Puri Rath Yatra. Now you should be aware about what is this Puri Rath Yatra all about. Of it is from which place to which place, and then Lord Jagannath's temple. There are 4 entrances that are there. Which are the 4 entrances? What is the temple architecture? What is new about the entire new architecture? Then, apart from that, Central Asia and Vietnam are buzzing destinations on Indian tourist maps. You should know about what are the Central Asian countries. You should know about the map, and also the fact that because of these probably the pricing point of these destinations, the number of tourists have increased, and maybe you can plan a tour to any of these countries after your means. Now, then, apart from that, let's quickly go to food for a rainy day. Now if you again, any of these articles, if you go for a GPT version, what you will see is that the essence of the article is again getting lost, but it gives you a good starter point. So again, as I keep telling you folks, that use GPT, but use it for your benefit, not for your loss. Now if you're using this particular topic, if you just cut and paste this and paste it in GPT, it will give you a good summary to start with. It will give you a good framework so that you know what you're going to read, and then you can read the article. I did the same thing with this particular article, what an NSA does. Why? Because this was a very factual article. It had a lot of numbers, a lot of names, and a lot of details with respect to who is reporting to who. Now, for me to read something like this would have taken, say, maybe 10 to 10 minutes, or maybe 8 minutes. But the moment that I did a GPT on it, I could get the sense of the article, and because I could get the sense of the article, the reading aspect of the article became very easy, and then I could do it in 5 minutes. So this is how I want you to approach the GPT version. Do not make it a handicap for you. It should be an asset for you. Then let's see the first thing, food for a rainy day. Now RBI is basically maintains around 650 billion dollars as basically to cushion itself, so that it says that we are going to let the market play, but suppose there are excess variations, there is an excess variation in the currency, then we can intervene into the market, which is also called as managed floating or dirty floating. Now what the article basically says is, why can't you have something like that for the commodities as well, for the agricultural commodities. Now because what we are seeing is that while the core inflation, now you should know what core inflation is. Core inflation is inflation minus food and fuel, because food and fuel are generally not in the hands of the government. Fuel inflation because we import 85% of our oil, and food inflation because it depends on monsoons and climate change and etc. So because of these factors, we exclude I mean from the inflation number that we have as CPI. If we exclude the food and fuel inflation, we get core inflation. Now if you see, the core inflation is at 3% in May, but the retail inflation for food is still at 8.7%. So what does the RBI do? In one sense, if you see the inflation rate at say 3%, you'll say you should cut rates. But if you see inflation of 9%, you should say that you should increase interest rates. Now these are two different signals that are being given. Now what the government should do is that it should cut down on the volatility and the unpredictability of food prices, just like it does in the external market. Now let's take the example of say the milk prices that we were talking about the other day. Now what happens is, you have this skimmed milk that you have, and I told you that there are fats, and there's this skimmed milk that is there, which is basically milk powder that you create. So what has happened is that the prices last year, February March, were around of 1 liter of milk was around 37-38 liters rupees per liter. And then it was also around this thing, the SMP realizations were around 315 to 320 rupees. But now what has happened is that the prices have slashed, the cow milk prices have slashed to say 26-27 rupees, and the prices of SMP has crashed to around 200. Now what has happened? It gives a cyclicity. Now as a student of economics, you should understand this cyclicity that comes into the pricing of any particular commodity. Now what happens is, last year, because the farmers were getting a higher price, what they did was, they went ahead, they gave good fodder to their cows and milch animals, because of which huge amount of milk was produced. But this year, because there was a glut in the market, the prices have dropped down. Now what will happen this year, because the prices have dropped down, they will not probably give so much of fodder to their milch animals, and because of which again there will be shortage next year, and then the prices will increase. So this kind of cyclicity of ups and downs will come, and this is where the government should come into play. And then if there is excess supply, maybe buy that supply, and if there is excess demand, maybe increase the supply from its own side. So this is something that the government can do. And apart from that, a buffer stock policy will also be needed, because of the fact that right now what we have is, the moment that the prices go up, we ban export, and the moment that the prices are down, then we don't do anything, because we have a pro consumer bias that is there. So this is an article about the entire agricultural sector, but also with respect to milk, that you should understand. Now, the next article, the return of the reformist. Now this is something that is happening throughout the world, and as I told you, you should be, as a student of civil services, or any general, in any stream that you're picking up, you should be aware what is happening throughout the world. Now we will talk about what is happening in France, because the exit poll predicts. Remember, we talked about Le Pen, who's from the right side of France political spectrum, and Emmanuel Macron, who's a centrist, and then you have a person from the left as well. Now we'll talk about that news. In fact, if you see what is happening in UK as well, the Conservatives, the Tories have lost, and the left guy, that Starmer, has won. So what we are seeing throughout the world is again a shift in momentum. What has happened is, for a significant amount of time, a lot of people who are conservatives, who are from the right side of the political spectrum, were getting elected. But in this year, probably you are seeing a lot of people who are reformist, or on the left side of the spectrum, are getting elected to power. And that, within that trend, you can see, you can identify, that is how even in India there has been a revival of Congress of sorts, and the opposition of sorts, with it winning a significant amount of seats, which we were expecting that it might win only, maybe together the entire India alliance might win around 140 seats. It ended up winning around 240 seats. So this shows that there is a significant movement within the left throughout the world. Now this particular article, let's come to this particular article. This article talks about what is happening in Iran. Now the Islamic Republic of Iran underwent presidential elections. Now you should be aware of the fact that yes, in the case of Iran's president, it has a number of powers with respect to how the posturing that it has with the rest of the world, diplomatic relation, defense affairs, foreign affairs, economic affairs. But at the same point of time, the leader, the ultimate authority in the country, is basically, it's a rule by clerics. It is a theocratic state, and also you should know, by the way, it's a Shia state as compared to all other Muslim countries around it, which are Sunni states. So now it is being, after the 1979 Islamic Revolution, there has been a supreme leader to guide the entire Iranian polity, and we have, in this case, we have Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who's the supreme leader. So despite the fact that you have a supreme leader, the president has some differentiated powers, and even a reformist president who's recently been elected, like Peshklan, he can then change the chart of Iranian relationship with the rest of the world, and even change, may try to at least change certain things with respect to his domestic affairs. Now I mean, in the sense that you should imagine that how Tehran, which is basically the capital of Iran, is extremely important, because on the west of it lies the US and the Europe, and on the east of it lies the Sino and the Russian, and on the north you have the Caspian Sea and the Central Asia, and then on the south of it you have Kabul and Rawalpindi. So you see all around it's in a very strategic location, and traditionally Iran has been very pro Russia, but and anti West. Now, a reformist president could be seen as a much more good or a better negotiator when it comes to the West and the Sino relationships. So this is with respect to all of that you should read this particular article in a broader sense, understand the role of Iran, and understand that how the election of a new person, of a reformist, could be something good for the world. But that also depends on who gets elected in US in the month of November. So remember, that's the most high profile election coming up. Then the next article. Now this particular article, let me again go to my GPT version, folks. Now, if you see, this article has been written by Sanjay Baru, who was basically discussing the architecture of National Security Advisor. Now, you should, for your internal security notes, folks, you should be aware about National Security Advisor, National Security Architecture, what all bodies are there, which body is there for whom. Now I'll tell you a brief history of things. Now let me just share my other screen and show you something. So if you see, let's understand the brief history of this particular post first, and then we'll talk about it. Now, Atal Bihari Vajpayee had first created this particular post as called as National Security Advisor. Now, why was National Security Advisor needed? First of all, you should understand the kind of role that National Security Advisor has. Now, you have these military people that are there and intelligence people that are there. Now, these are all what? These are all people who are going to implement stuff for you. These are all operational people. They know what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. Or what needs to be done will be implemented by these. Now, let's think of a strategic point of view. Now, implementation is one thing, but strategy is another thing. Now, suppose we have to corner Pakistan. Now, let's say strategy wise, we would say that we will, if we want to have an attack on the terrorist base, we know we have point X, point Y, point Z that we need to attack Pakistan on. That is what the operational part is. But strategy overall is that how do you counter the entire non-state actors that Pakistan has created within the vicinity of the LOC. Now that is a strategy that you have. Now what an NSA does, it marries both these things. That person who's occupying this particular seat is basically both someone who's looking things from an operational point of view as well as the strategic point of view. And this office was created first by Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who had basically said that the principal secretary to the prime minister, who's usually an IS officer, will also be the NSA. And basically late Brajesh Mishra was basically doing both the work. Then you had J.N. Dikshit, and it was the Prime Minister Manmohan Singh who had basically created an entire bureaucracy out of it. What he did was, he had one person, T.K. Nair, as the Principal Secretary. He had J.N. Dikshit as the National Security Advisor, and he had Narayanan as the Internal Security Advisor. Now Narayanan was from the police services, whereas this guy Dikshit was, I think TK Nair was definitely from the administrative services. I don't know about the background of Dikshit. So, and by the way, when Dikshit passed away, Narayan took over. So basically, you have, and then he was overtaken by, the next one was NSA was Shiv Shankar Menon, who was from the foreign service. So can you see that for this particular important position, there is infighting between the IS, the foreign services, and the IPS. Now at the same point of time, you can also add someone from the defense services for this as well. Now the issue here is, and this is being asked by a number of things, is that the chief of defense staff, now he is the head of all the tri services, and the tri services head do not get to meet the prime minister on this is what is written, is that that person is of the rank of secretary to the government of India, whereas the person who is NSA is basically the post of cabinet secretary. So he's at a very very high level, and in fact the CDS and the defense chiefs actually report to the NSA at a daily level. So you've created this bureaucracy, and one thing might be a problem that if there is something urgent needs to be taken up, maybe this should not get caught in the entire web tangles of bureaucracy, if there is something which should be communicated. Now this is the background with which this particular article starts with. So I wanted you to read this particular article and read the issue with respect to that, what are the issues of all these bodies, and the suggestions that we have. Now let's go to initial part. What has happened is that, see, this person Ajit Doval is getting old, and you want some kind of replacement. So what has happened is that a new post has been created, which is called as additional NSA, and along with NSA, and then you have these other deputy NSAs and the service chiefs who are part of this particular body. Now this body basically recommends to the prime minister with respect to operational and strategic issues. Now these are some certain questions that are asked, that what about the relationship with the intelligence czars like CBI, IB and the PM, CDS and the PM. All of these issues do stand in this particular architecture, and there have been questions: does India actually need an NSA? And number of people have said yes, others have said no. So this is the entire article. Please read this article. This will give you a lot of good insights into the entire security architecture of India, and you should also be aware of what is National Security Council Secretariat, what is National Security, and there was another organization that came here. Maybe you can read about that as well. So it gives you a lot of homework to do when you're reading this particular article. Then the next particular article that we have to do is the Indus Water Treaty. Now, there is a new term that will be introduced in this particular article, which is called as ecological flows. Now, this is something that you should be aware about from the point of view of your environment. Now, first of all, you should understand what ecological flows are. These ecological flows refer to quantity and timing of fresh water and levels necessary to sustain aquatic ecosystems which support human cultures, economies, sustainable livelihood, and well-being. Now, think of fresh water that needs to be. So, for example, there's a upper riparian state and a lower riparian state. Now, what is an upper riparian state? For example, Ganga is flowing from the Himalayas to the Indian Jammu and Kashmir region, and then it crosses the border, and then it flows towards Pakistan. So India becomes the upper riparian state, and Pakistan becomes the lower riparian state. Now, since the relationship between India and Pakistan anyway is not good, there are going to be a lot of guesswork, a lot of mistrust between these countries with respect to activities that the upper riparian state does. For example, even if India comes up with a barrage project, a barrage project which basically produces tidal power and basically consolidates the flow of the river. There are going to be certain kind of allegations by the lower riparian state, just like Pakistan has called this as water terrorism, because India has the ability, since it's an upper riparian state, India has the ability to divert waters of the Indus system, and 90% of Pakistan's agriculture is dependent on the Indus water system. Now, what so this is a problem of basically trust. Maybe you can use this example in your ethics as well. Trust, and how you can basically do any kind of trust building exercise when it comes to water sharing of between the upper riparian and the lower riparian. And this is not something exclusive to this. This is also, maybe you can understand this with respect to Haryana and Delhi, or Haryana and UP as well. So upper riparian and lower riparian. Now what this article says is that we need to have an ecological perspective. See, we are going through climate change, we are going through water stress, we are going through a number of things throughout the world, and we know we should have a cooperation between the upper riparian state and lower riparian state with respect to Indus Basin, because this is one of the most overstressed aquifers, and there are a lot of seasonal fluctuations that happen, and we need to share a lot of data with respect to what is happening, so that there is no mistrust. And one of the things that this particular article says is that within the framework of the Indus Water Treaty, we should incorporate this ecological flows, and this is not something new. This thing with respect to the Kishan Ganga. Now you should be aware about all the river water disputes that India has with Pakistan, and this is on which particular river. All of these you should know, by the way. Now Pakistan took India to the Inter-Permanent Court of Arbitration with respect to the dam construction that India did on Kishan Ganga, which is a tributary of Jhelum River. Now, what the court ruled, what the arbitration rule was, that we should be maintaining our ecological flows. Now ecological flows basically mean we should allow sufficient amount of fresh water, which should be there for other things. Just a second, folks. Give me 1 second. So now, so this is the part that you should be aware about, what are these ecological flows. But this article also gives you a lot of research to do. Now you should be aware about what is this UN Water Courses Convention, what is this 2004 Berlin Rules on water. But what you should definitely add an idea, whenever you read about water now, always include a thing of what are these ecological flows, and whatever river that you have, you should maintain these ecological flows. And since the population is increasing, you might even have a World Bank supervised data sharing framework within IWT, which is accountable and basically which reduces mistrust. So beautiful article, folks, for your mains. Now this is another article that we'll read today, which is on this thing, your agriculture. And this is an article, folks, that you're going to keep for your optional as well. Please make sure that you have a screenshot of this, and I would like someone to post this screenshot on the optional this thing as well. Whenever I say an article, please make sure that the this thing is there, and maybe you can make a Google folder in which you can keep putting all these articles. This is an important article for your optional as well, which talks about the insurance sector. And with this, there is another article that you should post, which is crop insurance coverage drops in FY24. Top 4 insurers cut exposures. This is also important with respect to a criticism of the insurance, the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana insurance. Now, let's understand the insurance first, okay? And then we'll talk about other things. Now, Fasal Bima Yojana, as the word suggests, what does that mean? Fasal Bima Yojana basically means you are giving insurance for any kind of crop. Now, the crops can fail because of multiple reasons. It could be climate change, it could be anything related to flooding, to heat wave, to drought, anything that you can think of may result in any kind of this thing, failure of crops. Now, to prevent these failures of crops and to stabilize the income of the farmers, what the government did was, government launched this Fasal Bima Yojana, whereby it took some premium. Now you should be aware of the fact that what is the premium for Kharif crops. It is around 2%. For Rabi crops, it is 1.5%, and for cash crops, it is 5%. Now you should also be aware about who pays this premium. It is being shared between the farmer, the state government, and the central government. There is a ratio towards it. You should be aware about that ratio. Now the other thing is that once the farmer is protected, then his or her income is stabilized. But at the same point of time, what this article basically also says is that there have been the number of insurers that were agreeing to participate in this particular insurance scheme were reducing year by year because of the human intervention and corruption. Now what happens is, I show that there was a failure of a crop in my particular district and in my particular field, and because of which I gain and I get some insurance money from the company, but actually it had not failed. Now there was a lot of human intervention in this particular scheme, because of which the insurance premium, the sum paid to people was increasing, and it was not good business for insurers. So the number of insurers were going down, the number of states providing these services was going down. Now in the last 2-3 years, the government revived this, and government said that we will not have human intervention, we will introduce some kind of technology in this particular process. So it introduced something like Yes Tech yield estimation system, and it also introduced weather information network and data systems, winds. Now which basically reduced human intervention, because of which the enrollment is at 40 million. Basically you are saying that around 4 crore farmers are with this particular entity. Now you should also be aware of the fact that this particular scheme, now this is where I'll link it to this particular article. This particular scheme is compulsory for a lonely farmer. Now you should be aware about, when you're reading some of these schemes, you should be aware about in and out about this particular scheme. Maybe go to the website of this particular this thing and summarize it. So in the next tech class, folks, whenever we have the next tech class, I will also show you how you can build a chatbot with respect to each particular link that you are generating. For example, you go to a particular website, say Ministry of Agriculture. Now you could create a chatbot on that particular page, and then keep asking questions with respect to that particular website, that what is this particular scheme, who are the beneficiary, who pays for it, and the bot will keep answering all your questions based on reading that particular website. So that is another technological way through which you can interact through various websites. Then but that is something that I will teach you in the tech part of our scheme of things. Now this particular scheme called Pradhan Mantri Bima Fasal Yojana is basically is compulsory for a loany farmer. Basically any farmer who obtains a loan or crop loan or a Kisan credit card loan for a notified crop will be compulsory, and that is called as a loany farmer. But it is voluntary for non-loany farmers who have insurable interest in the insured crop. Now what is this insurable interest? Basically even if I'm not even cropping, but a tenant is cropping, then also I can insure it, because I have an insurable interest. And for the first time, what has happened is more than 55% of the insured farmers are non-loany farmers who are enrolled through these common centers. And these are the applications are basically 1.5 crore people in Kharif and 2.5 in Kharif and 1.5 in Rabi season. So this is a very, very important scheme, and to expand the coverage of this scheme, the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare had launched this particular app called as App for Intermediary Enrollment, and it had a lot of point of sales, and through which they were increasing the number of enrollments. Now let's go back to this particular article. Now what this article says is that two things. Yes, the number of insured people are increasing, but at the same point of time, the premiums which were at 17%, the rate of interest which was at 17%, has now reduced to around 10%. It is around 8% right now, but still state wise there is a wide variation. Some states have very low premium and other states have very high premium. And this is something that needs to be tackled. And in order to better tackle this, the government also needs to do investment in ICAR for crop diversification, for climate smart agriculture, because in the year of El Nino, if we had very good seeds, if we had climate resilient seeds, that means we should not have dropped our agricultural yields, and the agriculture performance should not have been 1.4%. That means ICR need more funds. And there's another suggestion with respect to creation of a farmers council. Maybe you can read what this farmers council is. So very very important article, folks, that you need to read. Then hoping for a miracle in COP29. Now this particular article basically talks about, let's move to GPT version as well. Let's go through the GPT version. Now there have been talks, there have been challenges, and there have been number of issues. Let's talk about what is this COP. Now every year there is this conference of parties under UNFCCC with respect to climate change. Now we have an upcoming meeting of COP29 in Baku, which is in Azerbaijan. You should be aware of where Azerbaijan is. And there is difficulty in securing even the promised $100 billion annually from the developed countries. And in fact, we had talked about the fact that we need to comprehensively increase this particular amount of money from 100 billion annually to maybe even a trillion dollars, because of the fact that the climate change is becoming very real, and we seeing all these heat waves. In fact, we are going to talk about something called as Arctic fires today in the explain page. So we have had these bond talks, which are a precursor of the COP29, and we have had no consensus with respect to resource sharing. And we have a new term, you should be aware about, which is called as new collective quantified goal. Now you should be aware of what is this new collective quantified goal. If you see the article, you'll talk about that. I mean, how will the money come from, and where will the money come from? And this $100 billion was basically around 15 years ago. During Copenhagen, we had talked about this, and the actual requirement right now is around $1 trillion to $6 trillion. And why I mean China is also being singled out, and Saudi Arabia is being singled out because it's now become the biggest polluter. And things have changed from Kyoto Protocol when it was finalized in 1997, and now. So this is why we are talking about this, and whether China should also pay as a developer, as now almost a developed country or not. These are things that we need to see. And we also have to nurse a severely under nutritioned infant, which is the loss and damage fund, which we had basically talked about last year as well. So read about what this loss and damage fund is also about. Then let's go back to the GPT. So this is the challenge transfers, and since India is still a developing country, but it has not been asked to contribute for the future. But India has also, like other countries, India has also its national adaptation programs and national action plan for climate change. You should read about what that is. And then you have geopolitical problems and climate concerns, because what happens in Russia, China, US has an impact on the entire world. So maybe you can read about this particular article and the issues with respect to that. Then let's come to this is a France exit poll I was talking about, that Le Pen's party has not performed as it was supposed to, and the left bloc has won a lot of seats, but there is still no majority. So basically Emmanuel Macron will be working with the Prime Minister. That will not be from his party. Then dawn of a new era in Pakistan-China ties. Maybe you can read this. This is the article that I've already taught you, but this is the essence that was there in the article, but this is the factual data, where what we see is that the top 4 insurers, so you should know the insurance companies, which is AIC. These are the top 4 government insurers: AIC, New India Assurance, Oriental Insurance, and SBI General. and all of them have cut their exposure to the Prime Minister Fasal Bima Yojana, and the overall decline is also because of the agriculture insurance company, which is the largest insurer, crop insurer in the country. So you should be aware about this fact as well. Then another important article, Digital Bharat Nidhi, government's fresh attempt to improve rural tele connectivity. Now, what is there is a fund called as Universal Service Obligation Fund. Now, whatever is the gross adjusted revenue, whatever is the gross revenue of each of the private sector players. Now, read whether this is private or only public, but read about who's applicable here. Now, whoever is the telecom operator, 5% of their gross adjusted revenue goes to this particular fund, and this particular fund is then used to improve the connectivity, that is the digital connectivity of mobile network and telecommunication in the rural areas. Now what the government is saying is that we are going to replace this USOF with Digital Bharat Nidhi. Now where according to the Telecom Act, the contribution made toward the company towards this will be first going to Consolidated Fund of India, and from Consolidated Fund of India it will go to the Nidhi depending on the kind of work that is there. And you will have these DBN implementers who will be called through bidding or by invitation, and they will execute different parts. For example, executing 5G in rural areas, maybe 6G development. All of these things will be done by these implementers. And one of the issues with respect to USOF was that the funds were not being utilized properly. So this is something that you should be aware about. Now three important news that you need to go through on your own. Because of lack of time we might not be able to cover it. First is Arctic wildfires. There has been a huge spike in these wildfires, because of which the temperature in the Arctic sector has increased by 3%, whereas the rest of the world it has increased by 1.1 degree on the pre-industrialized world, as compared to the pre-industrialized world. Now because of this, because of what is happening is that there's a lot of permafrost in this region. Now permafrost is basically everything that is frost, but because you have a lot of these fires and a lot of rainfall that happens, a lot of this area is going to become ice free. And if it becomes ice free, then what happens is that all of this carbon sequestration, the carbon that has been captured by the environment and being shut off into this entire region, will then be exported, and it will further cause the higher level of temperature and warming of the world. So this is something which is very important for you to understand. Then a very important article on vital importance of Putin. What are the strengths of Russia and India, and how India's relationship is multipolar, and it's an all-weather relationship. And India is critical, and USSR is critical for India's defense relationship. And we have moved in our relationship from buyer-seller framework to involving joint production, then joint R&D, co-development, and then joint production. So we have done that. And what Moscow maintains is that we do not have such kind of relationship with any other country, but we need to have an eye on Sino-Russian relationships as well. Then because of the war of Ukraine, the trade amount which was around only we had this target of $30 billion by 2025. We have already reached $65 billion because of India's stance of autonomy in terms of its oil security. And for this, India has always walked a tight diplomatic tightrope with respect to advocates. And in fact India has found itself in a good position where it can has open lines to both Moscow and Kiev, and then it can be an interlocutor between the west and the east. So that's a good thing that India has reached. And then we should also always have an eye on the west and China. Then the last thing that I want you to read is that there is a crackdown in Karnataka with respect to artificial food coloring and coloring agents, and there were a number of samples that have been collected, and action has been taken under these food business operators. Now please read about all of this, and what is the architecture for our food security. So also read what are the different kinds of food products which give color, and what are the problems that it could have done. So, with this, we are done with today's paper, folks. Let me just share my screen again. Alright, folks. So, this was about our today's session, folks. Please join us or join me on maybe on this Saturday, or maybe the next Saturday. It could also be a Friday, by the way. So, we'll meet and we'll discuss about the developments in the week, and how your prep is, along with some kind of intervention of tech as well, how you can use more tech for your prep. So with this, let's sign off for the day, and all the best for your entire day, and I'll see you tomorrow at 5:15.